Mizuno just made the super shoe everyone else got wrong. 3 new shoes at $300, $275, and $250, and only the middle one is worth your money. To get there, Mizuno first built a racing shoe that is illegal everywhere, except exactly where the rules get measured. 3 things are coming. 1. Why Mizuno blew up its entire carbon line has a date on it. The 3rd of January 2020, the morning 84% of Japan's best young runners lined up in somebody else's shoes. 2. Mizuno's first answer to that morning was not a better shoe. It was a loophole. They sawed the back off a racer, so the rulebook would measure it exactly where it still passed. And I will show you where that ruler lands. 3. The price ladder on these new shoes runs backwards. The lightest one costs the most. The heaviest costs the least. Every step is exactly $25, and not one of those dollars is buying you speed. By the end of this, you will be able to pick the right one of the 3 in a single sentence, and you will never rank a race shoe by its price tag again. But none of that lands until you remember what a super shoe used to be, because that is the thing Mizuno just killed. For about 6 years, a super shoe meant one shoe, one per brand. Nike had the Vaporfly, Adidas had the Adios Pro. You bought that one shoe for your 5K, your half, and your marathon, because there was nothing else on the shelf. And that single shoe had to be light enough for a fast 10K and protective enough to carry you through 26.2 miles. Nothing does both. So you got to compromise, and you paid flagship money for it. Here's what that trained into you. When a brand sells one racer, the price tells you where the shoe sits. Top shoe, top price, best shoe. That rule is dead now, and if you still shop by it, you will walk out with the wrong shoe at the highest price on the wall. But the story of how it died starts on a road outside Tokyo. That road is the Hakone Ekiden. If you are not Japanese, you have probably never heard of it. In Japan, it stops the country. 2 days every January, 21 university teams running a relay from Tokyo out to Hakone and back. 135 miles, 10 legs, tens of millions of people watching it live. Winning a leg of Hakone can define a young Japanese runner's whole life. And for decades, the shoes on that road were Japanese. Mizuno and ASICS built them, in Japan, for Japanese feet. And everybody understood that this road was their house. On the 3rd of January 2020, 210 runners lined up. 177 of them were wearing Nike. Every single one of those in the Vaporfly NEXT percent. 84% of the field, in a shoe from a brand that had not been a serious running brand in Japan a few years earlier. 15 course records fell in one morning. Now count the home team. ASICS had put 51 runners in its shoes the year before. That day, 7. Mizuno, 9. 9 out of 210 on their own road in front of their own country. The next day, ASICS stock dropped 3.8% on the Tokyo Exchange. That is what it looks like when a market decides your shoes do not work anymore. So put yourself in a meeting room in Osaka that week. You are 114 years old as a company. You make the shoe the country grew up in. And you have just watched a rule book get outrun. What do you build? What Mizuno built was the Wave Rebellion Pro. The first time you see it, you think something went wrong at the factory. The back of the heel is not there. It looks like somebody put the shoe on a bandsaw and took the corner off. Reviewers called it weird. Runners called it a gimmick. It is neither. It is a loophole with a shoelace in it. Here's the rule it is built around. World Athletics caps a road racing shoe at 40 millimeters of stack. 40 millimeters of foam between your foot and the road, and no more. But a shoe is not the same thickness everywhere, so the rulebook cannot just measure the tallest part. It measures 2 fixed points, one near the back of the heel, one out in the forefoot. 2 points, and that is the whole inspection. Picture a ruler that only ever touches the shoe in 2 places, and never the tallest place. So Mizuno made the shoe thin exactly where that ruler lands, and enormous everywhere in between. The sawn-off heel is not styling. It is Mizuno getting the foam out of the way of the measurement. On the 3rd version of that shoe, the paperwork says 40 millimeters. The actual tallest point of the midsole is 61. 61 millimeters of foam in a shoe that is legally 40. That is not a design quirk. That is a company reading the rulebook the way a tax lawyer reads a tax code. And it does one more thing. With the heel gone, you physically cannot heel strike in it. The shoe forces you onto your midfoot, which is where all that foam actually is. Madness, or the smartest thing anybody has done with that rule. For about 2 years, it looked like the smartest. But here's what a loophole cannot do. It cannot make anybody want the shoe. The Wave Rebellion Pro was fast, and it was strange, and strange does not sell at $250. Walk into a running store and ask for the one with no heel. Most people never did. Mizuno had won its argument with the rulebook and lost the argument with the customer. So in December, Mizuno did something no other brand has done in one move. It deleted the whole line. The Rebellion Pro, the loophole, the bandsaw heel, all of it, gone. And in its place, 3 shoes. Not one flagship with 3 colorways. 3 genuinely different shoes, each built for a different distance. The Hyperwarp Pure, for everything shorter than a marathon. The Hyperwarp Elite, for the marathon. The Hyperwarp Pro, for tempo runs and speed work. That idea is correct, and it is the first genuinely new idea in super shoes since the Vaporfly. The super shoe is not one shoe anymore. It is a category, the same way road bikes split into climbing bikes and time trial bikes. Mizuno got the idea right. Then it priced them. But look at the prices because they run the wrong way. The Pure weighs 137 grams and costs $300. The Elite weighs 170 grams and costs $275. The Pro weighs 200 grams and costs $250. The lightest shoe is the most expensive. The heaviest is the cheapest. And every step down that ladder is exactly $25. Mizuno is not charging you for how fast the shoe makes you. It is charging you by the gram, like an airline charging for baggage, which is exactly why the flagship is not automatically the best buy, and shoe number 1 proves it. The Hyperwarp Pure is the halo shoe, 137 grams, 100% PIBA, the bouncy, expensive foam, no blend, no filler, and a full carbon plate. On paper, it is the most shoe for the most money, and $300 is the most any Mizuno has ever cost. Then people actually ran in it. The stack, by Mizuno's own numbers, is 31.5 millimeters at the front and 34.5 at the heel. In 2026, that is low. The crew at Believe in the Run put it plainly. The ride felt a little flat, and the Metaspeed Ray and the Adios Pro Evo 2 give you a whole lot more platform underfoot. The Metaspeed Ray costs exactly the same $300. So what did $300 buy you? Wait, Mizuno took foam out to hit 137 grams. And taking foam out of a super shoe removes the exact thing you are paying for. It is the most expensive shoe in the line because there's the least of it. If you race a hard 5K and you love a firm, connected ride, that trade is fine. For everybody else, this is the weakest value of the 3. So which one did they get right? The Hyperwarp Elite. 170 grams, 34.5 millimeters at the front, 38 at the heel, $275. It uses a PIBA and TPEE blend instead of pure PIBA, which sounds like a downgrade and is not. The blend is more stable, and over a marathon, 33 extra grams of foam is not a penalty. It is why your legs are still under you at mile 20. Testers described it as a stable version of the Brooks Hyperion Elite 5. That is real praise. The Hyperion Elite 5 is a shoe people love, but wobble in at the end. Stable plus bouncy is the hard combination, and Mizuno hit it here. Only here. So this is the one. Not the flagship, not the cheap one, the shoe in the middle. $25 under the top of the range is the only one in this line that earns its price tag. But that friendly number on the 3rd shoe is exactly where most people get caught. The Hyperwarp Pro is $250, and $250 sounds like a deal when the shoe above it is $300. So read the spec sheet. 200 grams, 33.5 at the front, 39 at the heel, a 5.5 millimeter drop, TPEE foam instead of PIBA, a carbon-infused wave plate instead of a full carbon plate. Read that list again. Heavier foam, softer plate, more drop. That is not a race shoe. That is a fast trainer wearing a race shoe's price tag. Mizuno is honest about it, to be fair, and calls it a tempo and speedwork shoe. The problem is the shelf right next to it. The Saucony Endorphin Speed does that exact job. Tempo, intervals, long runs with pace for close to $100 less. Testers said it out loud. The Pro costs almost as much as true race day shoes from close competitors. If you own the Wave Rebellion Pro and you just want that feeling back without the strange heel, this is your shoe, and you will enjoy it. But do not buy it because it is the cheap one. It is only cheap next to 2 shoes whose prices Mizuno set itself, so you pick by the distance you actually race, and you ignore the number on the box. Racing a marathon or a half you genuinely care about? The Elite. $275. That is the buy. Racing 5K and 10K, already own a marathon shoe, and you like a low, firm, connected ride? The Pure at 300. And try it on first, because flat is a feeling, not a spec. Want a fast shoe for tempo days? Do not buy the Pro. Buy the Endorphin Speed and put the $100 you saved into race entries. And if you race twice a year, buy none of these. A super shoe gives up most of its pop somewhere around 200 to 250 miles of hard running. Spread over 2 races, you are paying $300 to run a few minutes faster, twice. Now zoom out, because this part outlives Mizuno. The highest price on the wall used to mean the best shoe on the wall. It does not anymore. The moment a brand splits its line by distance, price stops being a ranking and starts being a spec, like weight or drop. Every brand is going to do what Mizuno just did, and their price tags will keep saying flagship, when what they actually mean is lightest. Mizuno got the idea right and executed 1 shoe out of 3. That is still further than the brands that have not noticed the category moved.
Which takes us back to that heel with the corner sawn-off.
Mizuno spent 2 years proving you can beat a measurement without beating the problem. Then it threw the loophole away and built 3 honest shoes instead. 2 of them are priced wrong. 1 of them is excellent. That is the whole point of this channel. I tell you which shoe is actually worth your money, not which one has the biggest ad budget. Nobody paid for this video, and 2 of the 3 shoes in it got a no. The rulebook still only measures those same 2 points. So which brand finds the next loophole? And what do they saw off? Tell me in the comments. And next up, I am putting the $275 Elite against the other marathon racers in its bracket. One of them is in serious trouble.